Welcome to the Learning Can't Wait podcast, a Full Mind production. At Full Mind, our vision is to ensure every child has access to an exceptional education. Each episode, we will be joined by pathfinders within and around the education space who are bringing about transformational change on behalf of deserving students. I am your host, Hallie Smith. Welcome back, everybody, to the Learning Can't Wait podcast. We have my name twin on today, although pronounced a little bit differently, but she's more than just my name twin. We have Hallie Smith, the founder of Hey There Insights and a former speech pathologist, joining us here today. Welcome, Hallie.
Hi, everybody.
You know, Hallie, last week you made an announcement, and I very quickly messaged you and said, can you please come on the podcast and talk about this? It is so rare that I'm able to capture what's happening in real time on the podcast and release the episode. So, all in from the time you made this announcement to the time this episode goes live, we will be under 2 weeks' time. So, this is live coming at you.
Yeah.
So why don't we start off? And I know that you have a lot to talk about as it relates to the platform you just released, the Hey There platform. But start us off by painting a picture and telling us, how did you come to be the personal and professional version of yourself?
Okay. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on and reaching out and sharing this new service with everyone. So I took a little bit of a different path than other people who have ended up in EdTech, I would say. I think a lot of people started out as educators and ended up kind of transitioning to the EdTech world. And I started in EdTech, transitioned to be an educator, and then got sucked back in. So I actually worked for a reading intervention company for 20 whole years. And in the middle of that, because they uh, sort of sold and targeted speech pathologists, I was exposed to this whole world of language learning and literacy, and I just fell in love with it and decided to go back to school and become a speech pathologist. So in the middle of working for that company, I went to school and ended up becoming an SLP for San Diego Unified for 7 years. And I really credit that time to understanding the on the boots experience on the ground, um, day-to-day life of an educator. And when some things were changing in the last funding downturn, and I actually got the opportunity to come back in-house full-time to the EdTech company. It was called Scientific Learning. And I started working on the marketing side and realizing that I understood educators and could get them to kind of pay attention. So that's what started my marketing career, so to speak. And I've been doing that ever since. And so I think I come at EdTech from that perspective that a lot of educators come from, right? Which is like, what's valuable to both sides? How can we make the biggest impact for students or save teachers time or help parents? Just we're all kind of in this profession to help. So I'd say that's a relatively short version about where I came from.
Well, you have the inside and the outside perspective, right? So because you began your career in ed tech and then went into becoming an educator, it really, and then went back to ed tech, I think it's probably even more unique than most folks who start in education and then move to ed tech, in that you probably had a lot of the perspective of who you were selling to or who your organization was selling to under your thumb while you were working with kids. How do you think the industry has changed since your first step in ed tech?
I mean, so much. There's so much more competition. There are so many more barriers to entry in terms of getting traction with schools and districts, just email spam blockers. And, we used to run webinars at Scientific Learning and get 7,000 people to sign up. I just cannot even imagine that happening now because you can't even get your emails through to them, right? So it's just a lot harder now because it's so much more crowded. So I think on the one hand, the barrier to entry for ed tech companies is lower because they can develop something much more quickly, like just because of advancements in technology. But the part where you make the actual product useful to educators and get them to use it, That's a whole different thing. That's a whole different ball of wax. I think that's much harder now.
Thinking about the level of competition that exists today versus even when I started in ed tech, which was 9 years ago. And ESSER funding played a large part in the proliferation and creation of ed tech companies. So truer today than it ever was before. And I imagine the boom we'll see, well, funding is more restricted at this moment in time. I imagine the boom we'll see from AI and the proliferation of ed tech tools as a result of AI is also going to really forever shape the trajectory of this space.
Yeah, for sure. I think just tying into what I just launched, I was just telling my sister I would not have been able to create that as quickly and seamlessly as I did without AI. I mean, you could
Okay, so
move.
what did you just launch? Tell everybody about it.
So I launched a platform called Hey There Insights. It's a marketplace for educator feedback, although I am starting to uncover some other use cases beyond feedback. And so about 18 months ago, I branched out on my own as a fractional marketing leader, and I had a client, can't even remember which one it was, and they needed educator feedback. Like they needed teachers to look at the messaging or look at the product. I don't even remember specifically what it was. But I had this idea of having a marketplace where educators would provide feedback, they would get compensated, and ed tech companies would get the insight that they needed to build their products. But I was busy building the agency and things were kind of taking off. That has gone really well. And so I just kind of shelved it. And then EdTech Week happened, and I have this monthly meetup with other EdTech sales and marketing people. And the topic came up again in the end of October. And people were saying that there was this theme they were noticing at EdTech Week where founders were not getting enough feedback from educators. And I got off the call, and then something else happened. It was just like a couple little signs where I thought, I'm gonna look into this. I'm gonna dig in and see if I can pull this off, basically, and kind of pull it off, relatively easily. And so that's what I ended up launching just literally a couple weeks later. And I have a real bias to action. So I launched it without having everything super buttoned up and polished, just to like, kind of see what the reception would be. Um, I'm a big believer in product market fit, and you want to see if you have something early. So that's what I launched last Tuesday, just 7 days ago. Hey there, Insights, it's called.
So how did you build it?
I used a platform called it's actually called Share Tribe. I think the URL is My Share Tribe. It's a two-sided marketplace software that is built for this kind of interaction. Which of course made the process just like so much easier. And you customize it to your needs. And inevitably, I thought it was going to work perfectly. So I got like 90% of the way, probably in 8 hours, very quickly.
Wow.
And then the last 10% has taken, I don't know, 40, because the devil's in the details. And, when I got into it, the platform didn't quite have the terminology for educators, or the interactions on the projects didn't quite work the way that I wanted it to. So, but that's the platform I use, and they have tons of marketplaces on like everything from like bike parts to I don't to prenatal care. I mean, they have everything. So it's just a platform. I think it's actually out of Helsinki, which is interesting.
Cool. So you managed building it, getting that last 10% done. It's been live for a week. What's the reception been like from the space?
So it's been very positive. One thing that happened probably about 3 days before I launched it, which was another good signal, is an educator named Courtney Bach posted on LinkedIn about how she was tired of being asked for feedback for free. And
I saw that post.
yes,
That's when I first learned that you were launching this new tool.
yeah. So it had over 1,000 likes. It had like over 50 reshares. And that obviously got me excited because I was about to launch the actual thing that would compensate educators for their feedback. Um, so so I put it out there. I've had some, I've offered free listings to get it started, and I've had good initial reception. I've had 9 projects posted. There's some people that are taking a little time, kind of trying to figure out exactly what they want to post, and maybe it's like a little bit premature. They want to do it, but they're not quite ready. There are about 20 educators on there, and I really haven't started promoting it yet. My whole plan was to start with the projects and then go out and find educators. But when people have heard about it, they've told other educators. I think that's how they've kind of come through. And people are starting to engage through the platform, like independently. So I can see, kind of on the back end, all the correspondence that's happening already between educators and founders. And that's obviously very cool. That's the whole point. And the payment process is really seamless. So yeah, I mean, it's going. I would like to get probably like 20 projects would be my sweet spot. Just so that when I really go out and start investing in driving educator signups, that they are excited to get in and bid, basically.
So first, Hallie, you're a marketing leader. What's the website? Tell us where to go to find it.
So it's heythereinsights.mysharetribe.com. So eventually it'll just be heythereinsights.com. But it is in a little bit of a beta version.
Hmm.
So that's the current URL. Um, you know how software platforms are. It's like every piece is an upgrade, right?
Sure, sure.
So I'm still in that, like I said, in
You
that.
need to figure out if you have that product market fit you spoke about,
Exactly.
and then you're going to be willing to invest more resources.
Exactly. Yep. And then like, the next phase like involves upgrading to Zapier and like it's a whole thing to kind of take it to the next level,
You
which I
know,
probably will be doing.
yeah, I mean, already I could see such a use case for this. Hallie, one of my favorite questions that doesn't not everybody likes that I ask is
Yeah.
how many educators are on your executive team? When I meet early ed tech companies or any ed tech company,
Yeah.
how many
Yeah.
educators are on your exec team? And if the answer is zero, how are you collecting insight about what pain points actually exist in schools today?
Right.
Even so, an organization like Full Mind, for example, has me, but I haven't been in a classroom in 9 years. I haven't been in a school in 9 years. We have other team members that have been more recently, but when I was the only academics team member, my experience was relevant, but I wasn't still living and breathing. Plus,
Yeah.
if you haven't been in a classroom or a school since COVID, we're talking about two different apples and oranges here. We're not talking about the same game anymore. So
Yeah.
I find it so important that ed tech companies have insight from folks that have their boots on the ground so they can build their product in meaningful ways, not just what they think is a good idea. This is
Right.
so cool to me, Hallie.
Okay, so a couple things. So a couple comments on that. So Matt Greenfield of Rethink Education. I have no connection to him. I'm just connected to my LinkedIn, but he posted this report on learnings from having worked, a long time in EdTech. And one of his first points was that a lack of product market fit is a lack of empathy.
Ooh,
And that really stuck with me. I was like, wow, that is so true. And it's because people think they can, and for good reason, think they can improve an educational system or improve educators' lives. And then I think they get blinded by their own ambition sometimes, and they go out and they don't get product market fit, right? So the second thing I was going to say is I have gotten comments on the my release posting on the LinkedIn posting with people saying I'm bootstrapped. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I understand that, but how much money are you going to waste by not getting feedback early, by not
yeah,
getting product market fit?
seriously.
So I think, and then also I'm like, I'm also bootstrapped, right? Like we're
Sure.
all bootstrapped. We're all kind of doing this on our own, right? Or a lot of us are, not everybody. And so when I thought about that, I thought, wow, that is not the right way to think about it, just to be fair, the amount of the value on getting early feedback is huge. Um, because obviously it's going to prevent you from making
Well,
mistakes
I
that,
mean, you know whose time is the most expensive in any ed tech company? But is the engineer. And
yeah,
so
oh
if you
yeah,
have
of course it is.
engineers hours spent on building tools that turn out not to be valuable,
Right.
like you to your point, you may as well invest that money a little bit earlier on and get that feedback.
And there are so many points of friction, right? So there are so many points of or opportunities for feedback also. So let's say, a lot of the companies that have come forward and wanted the free listings have a product built, but there's friction on the sign up process, which everybody, you know, faces. Every product led growth type company I've worked for, we're always like tweaking the onboarding process to try to reduce friction and get people to that aha moment as quickly as possible. So that alone, that one little step, that can make or break you, right? Even if
Yeah.
the product is super powerful. So I just think there's a lot of different ways this can be valuable and mutually beneficial, right? So I'm hoping that the mutual benefit has exponential sort of virality, right?
Yeah, that
That-
network effect of a
yes.
marketplace. Exactly.
Yes, exactly.
Hallie, tell me about what use cases have evolved that you weren't expecting in the past week.
Yes. Okay. So the main thing that's come forward, which I was not expecting, was people saying, I do have users. So I was kind of expecting that the people to come forward would not have access to educators, and that has not been the case. The people that have come forward do have access to educators, but they've already used the product, and they believe that those people who've already used the product are not providing a fresh, unbiased perspective.
Hmm.
So the word that keeps coming forward, because I've tried to meet with everyone who's posting a listing, is bias. They're like, I want feedback that is unbiased. I want teachers or admins to tell me the actual truth and not spare my feelings.
Ooh. Okay, I
Uh,
like those leaders. I love that. We need that
yeah,
unbiased feedback. That's awesome.
yeah. So one of the companies, it's called Stickity. She also said that this sort of posting her project on my platform and then sharing it out with her users would make her feedback process a lot faster and easier, because if you have ever gotten feedback on a marketing or product side, you then end up spending all this time like, well, send me your email and let me send you the gift card. And you'd spend all this like time going back and forth on just getting the person the compensation or even
Mm,
coordinating on trying to get to the people, right? So there's just
yeah.
um, that's a use case that I was not anticipating either, that people would want to post a project and share it with their users to more easily facilitate the back and forth, because the payment is in Stripe and it's quick, right? It's easy. That's what the platform is built for. So those are a couple things that have come forward.
That's really interesting. I am super excited that I'm getting to talk to you so early. And I know that when I next see you, because I get the chance to see you pretty often through one of the groups we're both a part of,
Yeah.
I know that I'm going to get a very different story. Like, Haley, I have too many organizations trying to come on board. When do I cap it? I
I
think
hope so.
I anticipate this to be something really valuable for the ed tech ecosystem. In that, I believe it is a major pain point for organizations in their growth strategy, and now there's a place they can go and get help quickly.
Quickly. Yeah. That's, I think, just like reducing, again, sort of using that word friction, but
No,
reducing
it's
the friction on
huge.
feedback, right? Yeah. I talked with a product, like a VP of product on Friday that we had connected prior to me even launching this. And he said that they were paying $15,000 to $20,000 a year to use a different platform, just that's not educator specific. And that was exciting to hear because if with one that is educator specific, then to have that same kind of value, I had not really considered that people were investing that heavily in platforms just to help them get feedback and do user testing.
That's very cool. Hallie, this is a quick conversation so you could share with everybody about, hey, their insights. Can you tell me, as a final question, what advice you would give an ed tech founder who is trying to build the best possible product to help teachers and leaders and students in schools?
Absolutely. I think it ties back to what we said before, which is obviously the more feedback and conversations and experiences you can have in with your ideal customer profile, the better, the more insight you're going to get. But I also think that when you go to craft your project that you want the feedback on. I feel like earlier in my career, I made the mistake of asking questions that were not going that if I got the answer, they were not going to lead me to any clear outcome. Right? So like you build a survey and you think you're going to get answers to the questions that you need answers, and you're going to be sent in a particular direction. Inevitably, the questions are not specific enough to actually send you in any given direction. And then you just have more questions. So what I've been encouraging the founders I've talked to this week is just get super specific on exactly what you're looking to accomplish with this one project. So if it's onboarding, are they activating, at a higher percentage than your control group, right? Just get like as narrow and as specific on exactly what you're looking to accomplish, because if you don't do that, you're going to get sort of like gray uh, data, for lack of a
Mhm.
better term. Sometimes that has happened to me. And so I would say, yeah, get as much feedback and have as many experiences as you can with the group you're trying to help. And then when you do go to set up projects to elicit feedback, um, make it specific. And obviously, there are people who specialize in this, so I'm not saying anything like earth-shattering. This is a whole art in and of itself, right? But
No, it's a good reminder. And one way to gather some of that data, as we now know, is to go to https://heytherinsights.myshriretribe.com. Hallie, thank you so much for coming on here and talking about this incredible new platform you built. I'm excited to have you back in a few months when it's really taken off.
thank you so much, Haley. I really appreciate it.
And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thanks for listening to the Learning Can't Wait podcast. If you like what you heard, please rate, review, and share this episode. Be the first to know when we have a new episode by subscribing wherever you listen to podcasts. If you'd like to be a guest on the show or have a suggestion for an episode, email us at podcast@fullmindlearning.com.